Hello everybody, welcome to my trivia channel from here in Yorktown, Virginia. It is March 1st, 2024. And if you haven't heard this story about Eddie Van Halen and his family, this is just, it's unbelievable. Just stay with me for a few minutes. You've heard the expression, out of tragedy comes triumph, and this really does apply here. By the way, John Hamilton, I'm a freelance writer. Some of my articles appeared in a local newspaper. Now I'm 61, and I was fortunate to go to, at the Hampton Coliseum, many Rush and Van Halen concerts back in the 1980s, and yes, it was better. It was so fun. But I didn't really know this story about Van Halen. It's like a movie. You just can't believe it when you hear it, and you will just, even if, they had those silly feuds with David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar, and throw in Gary Sharon too, and that all got to be such a pain. But when you hear the story of how they overcame adversity to make it big, it will blow your mind. And I don't think a lot of you know it. So, oh, by the way, the Hampton Coliseum is kind of known as the mothership to local, to music fans around the world, actually. So Google Hampton Coliseum and you see it. And in fact, you can Google 52 years of magical Hampton Coliseum memories in the Bulletin Post, and you can read an article I wrote about it. But, so, Eddie Van Halen and Alex Van Halen, they were actually born in the Netherlands. Okay, now, their dad was Jan Van Halen. You would think it would be Jan Van Halen, but Jan Van Halen. And their mother was Eugenia Van Beers. So Van Halen met Van Beers, huh? Pretty cool. Now, but she was from Indonesia. Okay, a lot of people don't know that. Eddie Van Halen is half Dutch, half Indonesia. Now, for those of you that slept through geography class, and I know who you are, Indonesia, she was from, if you look on Google Maps, I looked it up, about northwest of Australia. There's Australia down here, and then New Guinea's over here, Malaysia's up here, the Philippines. So, but she's Indonesian, and the dad is from the Netherlands. Now in America, we tend to call that Holland, but Holland is only, there's North Holland and South Holland. There's 2 provinces of the total 12 provinces that make up the Netherlands. So like America's broken up into 50 states, so the Netherlands is just about 1/6 of Holland's 1/6 of the Netherlands. But anyway, so the dad, back in the day, he was a musician. He played the clarinet and the saxophone. Yeah, you think about Eddie Van Halen and Alex Van Halen's dad. So he played those instruments. In World War II broke out in Europe. He was in the military, joined the military, and he kind of got to tour because he was a musician. Okay, so Germany, where they're from, I looked this up on Google Maps too. They're from a little town pretty close to the German border. And when Germany came in and invaded, they took over the Netherlands in 5 days. I mean, the Dutch people are tough, but they couldn't handle those tanks. So now the rumor goes, now this is allegedly, I don't know if this is completely true or not, that the Germans said to the Dutch soldiers, you have 2 choices. You join and fight with us, or we shoot you on the spot. So whether that's true or not, I don't know. But so the dad, he didn't want any part of it, so he fled to the Netherlands, and he was able to tour over there in the Netherlands and play his music and be part of the military still. I don't know how he pulled that off, but that's for another time. So he goes over there, and this is like something out of a movie. I mean, you just can't make this up. So it's World War II, he has to flee, and he meets his future wife there, Jan Van Halen, Eugenia Van Beers. They fall in love and they courted. Yeah, back then people didn't just go meet at bars. They courted and they got married. And it's a beautiful story, but then it turns ugly. Unfortunately, racism is an ugly thing. So they come, the war ends in 1945. It was from 1939 to 45. They come back and they live in the Netherlands. Well, they called, the 2 boys were born in the 50s, Eddie Van Halen and Alex Van Halen, and they were called a derogatory name known as half-breeds. Now, you may know that in America from the cool Cher song that deals with that issue. A half-breed is someone who's half Native American, half Caucasian American. Cher's got that great video where she's wearing that outfit. you need to see that video. And it really deals with that sad issue of racism. But so they were called half-breeds. So the dad finally said, enough, we're moving to America. And his wife, she had family in California, and they were saying, no, it's better here. Racism's not as bad in America, right? So in 1962, they decided to flee. Yes, they fled the Netherlands to America for a better life. And then there was no more racism and it was a happy ending. Wrong. Wrong, okay? America in 1962 didn't have their act together, unfortunately, I'm sad to say. And you may be thinking, wait a minute, when was the Civil Rights Act passed? That wasn't until 1964. July 2nd, 1964 to be exact. And in fact, we're going to be celebrating the 60th anniversary of that this July 4th weekend. So that happened. But still, you can't legislate hate or love. And, you know, peoples have to learn to accept other people. So it takes time. So they were in Pasadena, and Eddie and Alex got bullied. And they got their homework taken away, torn up. And this is horrific. They made them eat sand, playground sand. I know, that's disgusting. So they really endured a lot. And they didn't have money. The dad was a musician, but he didn't really make a lot of money, so he had to work as a janitor, and the mom had to work as a maid. Yeah, Van Halen wasn't rich. So the dad was a janitor, the mom was, in fact, Eddie Van Halen tells the story, that's why he didn't copy Jimi Hendrix, because Jimi Hendrix had all those toys, you know, the amps, the Marshall amps, and all these pedals and everything. He couldn't afford them. So Eddie Van Halen copied Eric Clapton instead. So because of money, that's where his style came from. Pretty interesting. So anyway, but out of tragedy comes triumph. And it kind of get choked up thinking about this because my family fled Italy. You know, my mom was Italian. My late mom was Italian. And they had to flee Italy in World War II as well because of Mussolini, who fought with Hitler. So we had to flee, and we came here through the Statue of Liberty legally, and very thankful for America. And then my dad was Scottish. My late dad was Scottish, and 250 years ago was the Battle of Culloden, where the British defeated the Scottish, and they kicked them off the Highlands. You know how in Braveheart they're on the Highlands there. That happened a long time ago. So my family eventually fled Scotland for a better life. So I'm very thankful that America has welcomed us. So Eddie Van Halen's dad, he would see his dad practicing the clarinet, practicing the saxophone, and then working as a janitor. And that's where he got his great work ethic from. And his mom worked as a maid. So that's where he worked and worked and worked the American dream. And then he met David Lee Roth, and they started the band Mammoth, which became Van Halen. Glad they switched it from Mammoth. But so literally, he wasn't some rich kid. He literally pulled himself up from his bootstraps out of nothing. So whether or not you hate all that stupid Van Halen feuding or you don't like him, you've got to respect this story. I mean, it's amazing. It's like something, this has to be a movie, at least a Hallmark movie. So sadly, both his parents are gone now, and Eddie's gone. Alex is still with us. And I want him to pair up with Rush and form a band called Van Rush Halen, but I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, they formed the band, and David Lee Roth, by the way, sort of became his protector because David Lee Roth's a black belt. You know, David Lee Roth's got those big muscles and the kicks up the side of his head. He has his own dojo. He's really a black belt, and so, you know, from the beginning, from when they met, he kind of protected them, so to speak. So, you know, you think of David Lee Roth as being either the coolest guy of all time, and then he got older, kind of the biggest goofball, but it was pretty cool that he kind of protected. He was like the big brother. So, and another interesting point is that Eddie Van Halen, they were considered minorities in Pasadena, California, so they hung out with the African American kids, and the Caucasian American kids kind of ignored them. So he kind of had more respect for the African American kids who stood up for him. And David Lee Roth also even spoke Spanish, you know, because they kind of, when they hung out, they didn't hang out with the Caucasian American kids as much. So the whole thing, I mean, we're all brothers and sisters, right? You know, it shouldn't matter what your race is. So anyway, it's an amazing story. And I think once you hear that story, you'll never look at that band the same way again. I mean, it's so, from a horrible thing of racism to becoming, he was voted #1 guitarist in one of the polls. He beat out Hendrix, and I know in other ones Hendrix is first, but you know, he's one of the all-time greats, and it was all work. You know, he locked himself in the room and practiced. And by the way, another little fun trivia fact, Eddie started out on drums and Alex started on guitar, and then they switched. Bet you didn't know that either. Well, that's it. Anyway, it's an amazing story. Tell me what you think in the comments below. And we'll see you for the next video. Bye.